Following a week-long stay in New York City, USS SLATER DE-766 and her crew began the trip north to Casco Bay, Maine, to put the finishing touches on some training. After morning inspections and the mustering of the crew, Bosun's Mate Second Class Elkins was added to the sick list. Ship and crew made good time and passed through the anti-submarine nets and anchored in Berth Dog at 1740. SOPA, that is the senior officer present afloat, was in USS Elkhorn, R-10. The next morning, those bound for firefighting and other training departed the ship, and they returned later that afternoon at 1546. Training began on the 28th, with a special sea detail set, the captain at the con, and navigator on the bridge. SLATER got underway from berth D. A heavy fog set in, reducing visibility to 500 yards. Extra lookouts were stationed, and the fog signals were started. By 0910, visibility further reduced to 100 yards, and 20 minutes later, it was 0. SLATER was able to safely make the rendezvous area and began a fire drill. First streams of water off the port bow within 2 minutes, and the ship secured from the drill, and with the SL radar out of operation, began creeping through the zero visibility fog. The radar was repaired and back in operation at 1410, and the lookouts reported a 100-yard visibility. She returned to anchor at 1614 in 22 fathoms of water, with 90 fathoms of chain to the starboard anchor. The anchor was weighed at 1742, and SLATER departed to join fellow destroyer escorts USS Thornhill, DE-195, USS Reinhardt, DE-196.
Another DE coming alongside. I suspect it might be the 196, and it is a 196. You can see the color on the ship is different now that we're in the Pacific. They used a different camouflage color for both oceans. That's the gun bucket that I told you was wrapped around the gun after rough storms in the North Atlantic. Here they are passing films or mail again. Ed Perk trying to get it out of the sack. Been times when we pass films and find out they were the same films we had seen a day or two before. But it was something to do on the lonely nights at sea. There's Ed McKeithen again.
And USS Roche, DE-197, for training. Sailing in column formation, SLATER acted as OCE, that is, officer conducting exercise, and this continued into the 29th. At 10:03, the ships fell in astern of another destroyer escort formation, consisting of USS Menzies, DE-320, USS Ebert, DE-768, and USS Burroughs, DE-105, and the OCE shifted to Menzies. All hands were exercised at general quarters for anti-aircraft firing practice, and SLATER's 3-inch 50 caliber crews got to work. SLATER's SL radar once again went out of commission that afternoon, and 20 minutes later, she broke formation along with Burroughs for a towing drill. The line gun was deployed at 1525, and 3 minutes later, Burroughs was under tow of SLATER. After all this was over, more anti-aircraft practice with 3-inch 50 caliber and 40mm crews, and the ship secured from general quarters and proceeded to Pier Fox in Casco Bay. That night, Steward First Class Dillard returned after being AOL, and 37,650 gallons of fuel was received. The next morning, SLATER got underway for more anti-aircraft training. Upon arriving at the exercise area, Lieutenant Kroll came aboard from a crash boat to observe. All of SLATER's anti-aircraft crews began firing at radio-controlled planes, and 2 out of the 3 were shot down. A third crashed into the water. Lieutenant Kroll departed, and SLATER returned to port. Sonarman 3rd Class Cash was added to the sick list. Lieutenant Junior Grade Woltz was detached for temporary duty elsewhere. SLATER got underway the next morning with observers from the Alcor aboard. The minesweepers USS Intrigue AM-253 and USS Method AM-264 joined SLATER for anti-submarine exercises. Over the course of the day, her crew fine-tuned their submarine hunting skills and fired 8 plaster-loaded hedgehogs. Deck court was held at 1320 for Hardin and Fireman First Class Wood. And the day ended when the friendly submarine surfaced, and SLATER dropped a 13 depth charge pattern. She returned to port and moored starboard side to port side of Ebert, who herself was moored to the port side of Elkhorn. A short anti-aircraft exercise the following morning resulted in the throwing overboard of 8 rounds of 40mm ammunition that had been dropped. At 11:45, course was changed for New York City in company with Ebert, and she continued sailing into the night. Next week, the months of training and preparation will come to a head when SLATER gets underway with her first transatlantic convoy. Be sure you are subscribed and following us on Facebook so you'll never miss a future video.